Welcome. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Monroe County Public Library Board of Trustees. We had some active book conversation before the meeting, as we should. And we'll start by going around and introducing ourselves. And if you care to share what you're reading, please do. Kathy, you want to start us off, please?
Hello, sir, and I'm reading Molecule of More.
I'm Kari Essery, and I'm reading a book recommended by Dave Ferguson called The Night Circus, and it's interesting. Yep.
And I'm Dave Ferguson, and I hope you do like that book, since I recommended it. And then, after I recommended it, I went back to reading Water for Elephants, which also is a circus theme. And I thought that was really good, but I just started Andy Weir's Project Hail Mary. And he's the guy that wrote The Martian. And I loved The Martian. So I have high hopes, but I'm just a very small way into it.
And I'm John Walsh. I'm almost done with Madame Bovary, which I'd started at our last meeting.
I'm Marilyn Wood, and I am reading Letters from the Earth, the uncensored writings from Mark Twain that was published posthumously. It's very, very witty.
I'm Chris Harrison, and I'm reading Tunnel of Bones by Victoria Schwab.
Hi, I'm Fred Reisinger, and I just finished the very lengthy and long book that's a biography of George Washington by Joseph Ellis. But it's amazing because George Washington's latter part of his life was in a way more interesting to read about than the presidential part. It's fun.
Thank you all. And our first item is the consent agenda, where we approve minutes, monthly financial report, monthly bills for payment, personnel reports, and our meeting calendar. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments, questions, corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of approving, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And turn it over to Marilyn for any highlights from her director's report.
Just a few things. We resumed the hours 9 to 11 at the main library on May 3rd, so not in April, but just to fill you in here. We actually extended our hours 9 to 10 and 10 to 11 at Ellettsville. Previously, we had opened at 10 o'clock, but those had been requested hours at Ellettsville. So we anticipate that may be a shift in our hours going forward. The volume of the on-site activity is still down significantly. We compared this year to 2019, and it is less than 30% of our 2019 traffic right now. It's pretty much neck and neck at both locations in terms of comparisons. It's just slightly higher at Maine than at Ellettsville, and the bookmobile is at about 20% of comparable traffic. But the good news is that we've still had about 8,700 individual people who have used the library this year or checked out an item this year, which is good news. We are still reaching a lot of different people in our community. And the digital collection use remains high, and that physical collection is climbing. So along with that, though, and this is just part of how things have evolved during the pandemic, we really are, I think, experiencing new relationships in a much more proactive and blooming way, perhaps, with virtual talks and personalized selection of materials, a lot of vital outreach in other ways. So just in general, I would say that we're still experiencing the pandemic, and we're still evolving and shifting ways in which we're providing services, and I think that will continue. We'll hear from Children's Services today, and they'll talk a lot about the ways in which we've shifted in virtual virtual summer reading, et cetera. So more to come. Any questions?
Go ahead, Kari.
So the story walks that are in the Flatwoods Park and the
Reverend Butler.
Now, there were story walks there before, so are you replacing or?
Yeah, and Lisa can address this. I
Okay,
think she's going to
okay.
speak to it somewhat, but
Okay.
we actually change them out a couple of times a year so that they're
Oh.
fresh.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know. I look at them every so often, but, nice.
I was just going to say, it'd be interesting to compare that 30% figure just to other organizations, you know,
Yeah.
gyms and
Right.
restaurants and everything else, and I would imagine it's probably
very
all
similar.
similar.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm actually attending tomorrow and Friday a meeting of the Adultply librarians, so the large public libraries in Indiana. So it'll be my first meeting outside of the library since the pandemic, but we're meeting in Brownsburg, and I do anticipate that a lot of our conversation will be about just how services have evolved and what we expect or anticipate that we'll be doing to continue to meet people wherever they are right now.
What's it done to the number of card holders?
So the fact that it's gone down over
Well,
time?
does it, yeah, have you seen any change in the number of I mean, I assume nobody ages out.
So they actually do age out in some respects. If someone doesn't use the library for 3 years and they don't have any associated charges on their account, then they are purged from the database. So it does remain active. And over the course of the last couple of years where we eliminated fines, so there were quite a few people that were in that very old and sort of stagnant pool of not using the library, and they've been removed now. So it should be a more active database, but we continued to add people to our card holders. During the pandemic, we did it electronically, or people just gave us a call and we issued cards, and so that people could continue to access. In fact, quite a few cards. I don't know that number off the top of my head, but they could continue to access electronic resources that way. So we received requests for a lot of new people during that time. But yeah, that number, I think it's one of my goals is to increase that number, but not just to increase the number of card holders, but the number of people who actually make use of the library that hold a card.
Right.
So I look at that unique use as a better indication of really users of the library.
Right.
Any other questions for Marilyn? Then moving on to old business, we have our regular update on the Southwest branch from Greer Carson.
Good evening, everyone. So we're in the continued planning and development of design phase with the branch. For most of this month, we've been focusing on some functional areas of branch design. These include facilities items like types of doors within the building, types of locks for both public and staff spaces, location of security cameras both inside and outside the building, parking garage access and safety infrastructure, RFID security gates at entrances and exits, and the automatic materials handler solution we plan to put in place. It's also building signage that we've been looking at, specifically street-level signs for the branch, interior welcome and directional signage, and accessibility and ADA compliant signage. And we've been shopping for kitchen appliances, or more specifically, Marilyn has been shopping for kitchen appliances, refrigerator, stove, dishwasher, other common appliances, but also overhead mirrors and digital displays for the teaching kitchen, because after all, this is a teaching kitchen, it's a highly interactive space. So this is the really fun part. We also took a leadership field trip out to the site on Thursday, May 6th, to get a collective feel for the site, its location relative to Main and Ellettsville, the surrounding neighborhoods, nearby amenities, and of course, Bachelor Middle School itself. And our wonderful building services leaders, Brian Leibacher and Jason Matney, actually staked out the site so we could get a sense for where the building and the parking facilities began and ended. And this trip gave our leadership team the opportunity to visualize the building beyond the two-dimensional schemes that we've been reviewing for the past year or so. It was exciting to look around and see exactly where and to further envision how we'll be welcoming many more Monroe County residents to MCPL through the southwest branch. There were also many ticks at the site, and we all agreed that despite their natural utility, they are not welcome at the new branch. So we encourage you all to take a trip out to the site sometime this summer, walk around. The stakes are going to stay in place. That should give you a sense for where the building will be in relation to the surroundings, and it really just makes the whole process much more real. And we have requested to be on the June 8th County Council agenda to present a resolution for both the Series A and Series B bonds, which includes the construction bond for $6 million. So we look forward to presenting to County Council next month. And finally, over the course of this project, we come to think and talk about the branch as the southwest branch. The reason for this is obvious. It's technically in the southwest quadrant of Monroe County, but it's also a meaningful moniker in that it underscores the library's goal of reaching a fast-growing and comparatively underserved area of our community. And so we continue to refer to the new branch as the southwest branch. We're seeking tonight some affirmation on your part that this is a good idea going forward, or if there are other ideas about what we ought to call the southwest branch. So we'd like your opinion.
And to put it in some context as well, we refer to Ellettsville as the Monroe County Public Library Ellettsville branch. So this would be parallel to that.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I approve.
Is there a little town, like Sanders is down the road quite a ways, right?
Yeah,
I
there's
think that-
nothing specific.
Yeah, I think the
Yeah.
closest you could come would be to call it Clear Creek or something like
Oh,
that.
okay,
But
yeah. No, I think Southwest is a nice.
yeah.
Is the grass really tall? That's why
Pretty
there's so
tall.
many ticks?
It's pretty tall. I think
Okay.
there are a lot of ticks out there. Just
I'll wait till it's mowed.
period. Yeah. We don't know when that'll happen, but
Okay.
all right.
Thank you, Greer. Moving on to new business, this is an action item to
This
adopt
is an
this?
action item,
Okay.
right?
Do we have a motion to adopt the library board attendance at electronic meetings policy on page 78 in our packets?
I move we adopt the library board attendance at electronic meetings policy.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion or
I
things you
can,
want
I
to
can
point
give you a
out?
little more background here. So, as you know, we've had the opportunity during this public health emergency to meet electronically. As the public health emergency ends, the legislature wanted to continue to offer electronic meeting, both access, and they also wanted to just continue in terms of public access to meetings, but more importantly, they wanted to include it as a opportunity for members of boards to participate and be counted as attending the meeting. But anyway, so on April 20th, the governor signed this act, HEA 1437, which involves electronic meetings and signatures, and it was effective immediately for public libraries, but you must adopt a policy establishing procedures for electronic participation. And so the proposed policy includes all of the required procedures. Procedures can be more restrictive in terms of things like the number of members who might participate, although you still have to have a quorum on site, but the total number of meetings that could be conducted electronically in a given year, et cetera. So the policy before you is inclusive of all of those things that are required of us. And Tom Bunger has reviewed this.
It doesn't really add much. I mean, now that I look at it, that you need to have a quorum
Yeah,
for any meeting,
yeah,
which is the same thing
as being here. Mhm.
as we do now, but it just says, well, as long as you have a quorum, then somebody could participate electronically unless you're voting on something really important, and then no.
Right.
That's not really a big change.
Nah, I think in most cases, the big difference there is that you can count your vote. And prior to, you could have, I suppose you probably could have participated electronically, you just couldn't vote. But this would allow a person to vote. But the other piece of this is that from the electronic meeting, you have to be able to be seen and heard, which means you have to have some process in place. We're fortunate enough to have that, but it's not true of every library.
And then is there that thing, you can do it twice consecutively, but then you have to attend in person.
Right.
Or provide an allowable reason. Because I was thinking, yeah, it would be helpful if someone were to be under the weather, you know, or suffer a health condition or, you know,
Right.
something that affects their mobility, but they could still participate, which would be great. But then here it says, well, only twice, but I guess you have to provide, if you could provide an allowable reason, then you could do it 3 or 4 times if you were convalescing from something.
Yeah, there are 4 reasons that you might do that: military service, illness or medical condition, death of a relative, or an emergency involving actual or threatened injury to persons or property.
Right, but that's only if you were going to do more than half the board meetings in a year.
Or that's the 2 meetings, consecutive meetings.
So you're saying allowable reasons are those 4 reasons?
Correct.
Oh. Well, it's a pretty strict policy. I don't feel like I'm really swinging out on a limb here. I feel like it's pretty safe.
And of course, there's the caveat, if we were to have another
Yes, then there would something else.
declared emergency.
So I suppose there are certainly 2 options here. One would be if you feel like there is of little value and you just prefer to have people be here in person, we don't adopt this policy at all. Or we adopt it just in case. That would be your option. There's nothing that says we have to adopt it if we never intend to use it.
Oh, I think it's great. I wish we could go more, but I think it's as broad as it can be under state law. I mean, personally, I thought it was cool when we were able to still meet, even
Yeah.
though we're in the middle of a pandemic.
With, board members must be able to be seen and heard to participate. They must be able to be seen and heard by whom?
The public, I would assume. I think it's probably addressing that you cannot black out your face during a Zoom, and you
Right.
cannot turn off your mic.
Right.
Because I think that's happened in many organizations.
So there's no bathroom breaks if you're gonna
If you
attend
participate.
remotely.
At least not during a vote.
Well, the chair, I guess, could say, well, we're gonna take a little break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor of adopting the policy on library board attendance at electronic meetings, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Oh, I had just a question of curiosity. Was this just for library boards, or did they pass similar laws for other government bodies?
As I understand, there are others that can do it as well. And Tom's shaking his head.
Moving on, we have our monthly update. This month, Children's Services from Lisa Ciampelli. One of the highlights of our year, hearing about the summer reading program.
All right. Let me back up here.
And other great things you guys are doing.
Thank you. It's lovely to feel welcome. And thank you for inviting me to speak with you tonight about the work of the Children's Audience team. We've recently had some new staff members join our team, but the information I share this evening describes the combined efforts this past year of librarians Ellen Arnholter, Kim Baker, Amy Caswell, Dana Duffy, Jenny Hassler, and senior information assistants Sydney Balser, Claire Clark, Paul Duzinski, Krista Sauter, and Kathy Starks. Our community is fortunate to be surrounded by these passionate and compassionate people who shape the valuable experiences available to children through the library. What surrounds us shapes us is a public health concept I learned about a couple years ago from colleagues in the Monroe County Youth Services Bureau and members of the Building a Thriving Compassionate Community Coalition. It embodies the principles that safe, stable, nurturing relationships and environments are fundamental for healthy brain development and essential to the development of skills that help children achieve their full potential and thrive. So, how do we maintain safe, stable relationships and environments during a public health crisis when everything seems to be unraveling? To help illustrate this, I'd like to share a short video clip from a story time that Dana prepared earlier this year. It's just about 2 minutes, and Katz is kindly.
Look at that. It's a little rainbow. And when you knit, you have 2 needles. These are your needles. And you put your needle through a loop, just like that. And pop it through, you bring it around, and you pop it up. Now, people like to knit sweaters. They like to knit scarves. Some people knit socks. All kinds of things that you can knit. But you have to be very careful, because if you get a stitch, and that's what each one of these little loops is called, a stitch. If one of these little loops isn't in there just right, the whole thing will fall apart. And I'm going to show you how. If you have one little loose stitch, all of the sudden, it can all come out and unravel. And all of a sudden, you're left with nothing left. All your knitting is gone. Well, that's what happens in my first story. And this story is called No Roses for Harry.
Now, Dana is just one of the children's librarians who has shared stories and rhymes with children through video recordings and live Zoom presentations as a way to continue providing that storytime experience and connect with children while we couldn't gather in person. And all of the programs that the children's librarians have done have been fabulous, and you can find them all on the library's YouTube channel for viewing anytime at your convenience. But I highlight this segment because it's a wonderful example of how to add to a child's knowledge or understanding of something, how to make that distance learning feel up close and personal. And it's a terrific example of an inclusive practice. Dana doesn't assume that children all know how a sweater can be made. By demonstrating and articulating what knitting is, how different threads are stitched together and how they can come apart, Dana has ensured that all of her listeners now have that shared information to enhance their understanding of that story. She's taken what might be an abstract idea for some young children and made it real and tangible. As a children's librarian dedicated to outreach services, Dana's work helps ensure that more children are included in library services and more children have the opportunity to experience a diversity of stories. And I'm going to step aside now and let Dana elaborate on her work, and then I'll come back and describe some more of our activities.
Okay, thanks. Hi, I'm Dana Duffy. I'm the outreach librarian here at Monroe County Public Library. And I have a very short presentation to explain my group that I work with. So I work with Head Start the Nest at New Hope, and then also I oversee the daycare delivery. So the Head Start, this is a couple of my little guys right here in Head Start, and they were having superhero time, so they were dressed up like superheroes. It's pretty cute. So here in Monroe County, we have 24 service points for Head Start. There are 22 classrooms, and then there's also one classroom that's devoted to home visits. So these are for children who can't physically make it into the building, and I work with them as well. And then I also work with the Nest at New Hope, and I think most of you are probably familiar with New Hope, serves homeless families, and their preschool is called The Nest. So I go there as well. All of these locations are in Bloomington except for one is in Ellettsville. It's out at the Boys and Girls Club out on 45. So just a small overview of what Head Start is. It's government subsidies. It's a preschool for low-income children, and it started as a way for low-income children to catch up over the summer, much like the summer reading program started in public libraries. It expanded to all year in 1981, and so each state oversees their own Head Start. So here in the state of Indiana, or in our quadrant of Indiana, ours is run through the South Central Community Action Plan. So it's not just Head Start, it's many other programs as well that Head Start is embedded in. The Nest is the branch of New Hope that provides childcare for children experiencing homelessness. And I go to the preschool that serves children 3 to 5 years old, but they also do have a daycare as well for children who are infants up through age 3. Usually there are only about 5 or 8 kids who are in that preschool. It's very small. They're located on 2nd Street on the B line by the Kroger, but they are moving. They're going to move down to Switchyard Park. They're very excited about this, and they definitely deserve a nicer facility. It's a wonderful place to go. I love going there quite a bit. The people who are there are very devoted and dedicated, and I can't say enough about it. It's really a wonderful place. So what do we do for these daycares and preschools? We do provide materials to them, and I'll get into that in just a second. So they always get a bag of books each time I go. And then when I go, and when I could go, which I cannot go right now, I would provide a story time. And usually what I find out is they have themes that revolve around certain months. So I'll provide those story times with those particular themes. They break the children up into classrooms that are 0 to 12 months, 2 to 3, 4 to 5. So there's Head Start and early Head Start. And most of these classrooms have between 12 and 15 children. Right now, they're not quite up to capacity just yet. So I conduct these programs. Usually these programs are about 20 to 30 minutes long. It depends on what the mood of the room is like. Sometimes things go well, sometimes they don't. But generally, I do try to have books that I know these kids are going to like. And this is one of the components that's really important, is that these children see these same books over and over and over again. They become very familiar with them. And they grow very attached to them. And so these are characters that will probably last with them for their life. So they're never going to forget who Pete the Cat is. They're never going to forget who Llama Llama is. Just like many teenagers and people who are in their 20s and 30s now will never forget who Harry Potter is. So this is a way to sort of start this lifelong love of reading and learning really early. So I always try to include these characters that they also talk about amongst themselves. These are little 3, 4, 5-year-olds who have their own kind of book clubs. They like to talk about Elephant and Piggy. So it's great to see. So I deliver those materials to them every month. And then the books are selected by the outreach staff and some of the children's staff as well. It's not really what the library van looks like, but I like to fantasize that it is. We do have a library van. It's the black van. That's what we call it. And we go out and we make deliveries with the black van. There are 6 library staff members who get those materials for me for the daycares. They communicate with the daycares. They communicate with the Head Start classrooms to ask them what it is that they want. I don't oversee all of that. It would just be too much. And why do we do it? Well, it familiarizes the children, parents, and teachers with the library. So I'm not just going just to do a program, just to give them library books, but it's also a way for these parents and the children and the teachers to have the library be part of their life and for the library to be a lifelong part of their life. It also exposes these children to a variety of literature and also literacy building skills. So I don't just go there and read stories. We do a lot of finger rhymes. We do puppets. We do a lot of interactive games with them. And it's all tied back to what's called the Every Child Ready to Read. So it's songs, games, stories, play, music. It's all of that incorporated. And then it also helps with some of the parents and some of the teachers. And I say some because some of the teachers and parents are as well read and versed in early childhood as anyone is at the library. But it's a fair amount of turnover. So there are a fair amount of younger teachers. And certainly there are parents who really don't know much about literature or literacy skills at all. And so to have the library provide this as a way for them to learn about the different reading levels, the different abilities that children have throughout these different stages when it comes to literacy is really, really, I think, appreciated. And then also, I do go out and I work with them when they have like parent-teacher workshops. I'll go out when we're no longer in this pandemic. Hopefully, again, I can get out there. And then, of course, the biggest reward is they're just so much fun. It's just the greatest little audience in the world. They all want to run and up to me and hug me, and that's going to be really tough when we're back in the classroom because I don't know how much of that I'm really going to let them do that. But it's great. I love my job, and I can't wait to get back and see these kids again. So thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Questions for Dana?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks so much, Dana.
It's like I'm the only person who works in the library.
I wanted to include this too because Dana also drives the bookmobile. So she is extremely versatile, and I just feel very grateful for the expertise that she brings out into the community and the resiliency that she has really demonstrated this last year as well. So in addition to bringing library services out into the community to where children are, we seek ways to invite children to visit their library and learn that this special place belongs to them and is important and meant for everyone in our community to share. In lieu of the annual field trip to the library for first graders, we prepared a short video to help them learn about the library, also available on the YouTube channel for watching at your convenience. This video references our personalized recommendation service, which invites kids and caregivers to complete a form just describing their reading interests, and then it gets submitted to the children's staff who are able to kind of look for some good fit matches to what they have submitted. And librarian Ellen Arnholter reports that just between January and April, we received 106 of these submissions, and that's just a tally of the things that we've received online through that form. Since we've been open again in person, of course, we have people stop by the Children's Help Desk every day to ask us for suggestions and provide some of those recommendations. But especially when we were closed for browsing, we had a lot of caregivers say how much they appreciated this service because it was just a little trickier to kind of choose books when you could only search the catalog online. On a weekly basis this year, we've shared out our story times and other programming via pre-recorded videos, the Zoom sessions, and take-home activities. And since the pandemic started, the Children's Audience team members have created over 5,500 kits, take-home kits. Wow. It's truly been a group effort, but kudos go especially to librarian Kim Baker, who coordinated the production of these kits and has imagined many of them as well. You see in the April Director's Report that Kim is continuing her work to help make the library more dyslexia-friendly, and you can find information about dyslexia and autism on the neurodiversity resource page Kim developed this last year. And another resource page on our website was developed by librarians Ginny Hassler and Amy Caswell as a companion to our new Advancing Racial Equity collection. The book club and storytime kits in this collection help increase the availability of stories about Black children and help children and their caregivers talk about race issues. Ginny has really led our efforts to increase staff and community-wide understanding of our need for books that provide diverse representation of the people in our world and how we all need books that reflect our own identities and provide insights into the lived experiences of other people. In January, we launched the Everyone Has a Story reading challenge using the online resource Beanstack, and we invited community members to discover both books and short video profiles about people from different races and life experiences. Now, I've been describing a lot of the activities that library staff have been involved in the last year, but one of the things that I really like about our online reading challenges is that Beanstack provides a way for us to get a little peek at some of the outcomes that we hope these activities will achieve. And readers participating in the Everyone Has a Story program were asked to share a brief response describing something that they learned from one of the books they read or a video they watched. And a couple of the responses we received during the program included, I read the book George by Alex Gino. I learned the gender you identify as doesn't always match the body you are born with. I read the book Everything I Never Told You, and I learned about anti-Asian racism in the 1970s. The book let me experience the point of view of someone who's different from me, and it made me more conscious of my own privilege. In April, Amy used Beanstack to begin an ongoing 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten reading challenge that supports our Every Child Ready to Read initiative and encourages families to read fun books together on a regular basis right from birth. And of course, helping children find fun things to read and do this summer is what the summer reading program is all about. And although the game doesn't officially begin until June 1st, we already have more than 100 children enrolled in the children's game. We decided to use Beanstack again this year to offer the game online. It's very similar to last year's game, with options to earn points for both reading and trying out different activities that encourage children to be creative, imaginative, curious, and kind. And this year we added a Be a Voter activity track, where school-aged children can vote for an item that they would like the library to purchase for shared community use, such as musical chimes for our garden spaces or special seating for the tween spaces. In response to feedback that we received from participants in last year's game, we also added some additional point badges so that the kids who are interested in challenging themselves to go beyond the completion goals that we set in the game, they have a way to continue earning points and tickets to enter into raffle drawings. For anyone who is not able to participate online, we can offer a paper log that they can use to record their reading achievements. And while we had more than 800 children enroll in the summer reading game last summer, we hope to exceed that number this year, and we hope to see more of our beginner readers take part this summer. So if you know a child who has just finished kindergarten or first grade, let them know that we'd like to give them one of the books we have about animals that we're setting aside as a kind of incentive to have some of those younger readers come in and visit us starting June 1st. We have 1,000 of these early reader books to give away on a first-come, first-served basis to children who just finished kindergarten or first grade and come say hi to us when they visit the library in June. We extend a tremendous amount of gratitude to the Friends of the Library who provide the funding for the prize books and other items that participants can win. And on behalf of our readers, the Friends will award $1,000 to the Monroe County Humane Association when we reach our community-wide reading goal of 1 million minutes read, which I'm sure we'll do in just days. So besides being the obvious choice to accompany our Tales and Tales theme, we selected Monroe County Humane Association as the recipient of our community donation this year to help support the wellness clinics and other care that they provide to our animal friends, and to honor the many pets that provided companionship and comfort throughout the pandemic. I had no idea that there were so many cattails in the world as we sat through our Zoom sessions, including my own cats, who provided very good examples on how to be chill this summer. I think I have time to share our short summer reading video. It's just about 2.5 minutes. It features some puppet friends with tales, and so I thank these friends for participating in this video, as well as our people friends in communications and marketing. We are just huge shout out to our graphics and video design team for all of their expertise and stellar work. Before I share the summer reading video, I just want to conclude with a reminder that a visit to your local story walk is another wonderful way to enjoy reading this summer. Oh No, George is out at Flatwoods Park, just west of the Ellettsville Library, and Away with Wild Things is at Reverend Butler Park across from Teacher's Warehouse. And Amy selected this charming story about a shy girl who is fascinated with the bugs and other critters found in nature, which proved to be a serendipitous choice for our summer of cicadas. And now, the summer reading video.
Yay! Summer's here! Yay! What should we do? I know! We should sign up for Tails and Tales! Ooh! I have a tail! It's so spiky! See it? Oh, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I have a tail too. It's small and fan-shaped. See? Ooh. No, not that kind of tail. I'm talking about the summer reading game at the library. Tails and Tales. The other tale is a story. I love reading! Yay! Me too. How do we sign up? How? It's easy. You can sign up with the library's website at mcpl.info. From the MCPL homepage, click on In the Community, then Reading Challenges. Then follow the summer reading links into Beanstack where you can sign up and track your reading. If you need help with this part, you can ask a library staff member in person, on the phone, or via chat. Oh, that's so cool. But I don't have a computer. I only have my phone. You don't need a computer. You can use the Beanstack app on your phone or a tablet, or you can go to the library to sign up on one of their computers. Oh, no, I'm too short to drive. I just use the bookmobile. That goes to like almost 30 different places in the county. You can sign up for Tails and Tales on the bookmobile, too. We even have games for teens and adults. Yay! I'm gonna make my Beanstack account today. Me too. I can't wait to start reading some short tales and some long tales and some folk tales and even fairy tales. And if our community reads 1 million minutes, the Friends of the Library donate $1,000 to Monroe County Humane Association. Yay!
You can sign up for a Beanstack account anytime, but the summer reading games officially start on June 1st. That's so soon. Register for the games, then track your reading, and you'll earn a free book and a chance to win some great prizes. Games are available for teens and adults too. Did you hear that, Mom? Dad? You can play too.
So kudos to my colleagues who have a lot of fun putting that together. And I also want to give special thanks to the librarians at MCCSC. We are really missing being able to go into the schools to help kids learn about the summer reading game. And so they have helped share out this video and talk with kids about what they can do at the library over the summer. And one of the children's staff told me just before the meeting that we already had one child come in asking, when can they start playing the summer reading game? So that means a lot to us that we have this help out in the community helping kids learn about the library. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm sure for the whole library, but especially youth services, it'll be great as things open up more. So we're all looking forward to that. Thank you. And it's now time for public comment. If there are any members of the public who would like to address the board, please come to the podium, state your name, and share your thoughts with us. Seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.